So of all the talent leaders I know, James is got one of the best sort of breadths of knowledge around AI and how it's coming into our industry and the things that it can do and what's going on. So I thought we would spend a little bit of time just talking about the new ICO guidelines and what we can actually allow AI to do on our behalf when it comes to particularly assessing people, right? So James, quick intro from you for anybody who doesn't know you.
Yeah, hi, James Gardner. Very quick intro. I help talent and talent acquisition functions transform, as Adam mentioned at the moment, putting particular focus on how AI is currently impacting those functions, how they can get closer to the business, move upstream, and realistically make talent and talent acquisition more of a commercial lever and be responsible for outcomes so that we then can be positioned within the organization as having real business impact as opposed to the process that we are often looked at.
Yeah, these are some of the most cutting edge and important things we in the talent acquisition world need to be thinking about. Let's talk about the ICO guidelines, and let's talk about how we are using AI typically in recruiting today. What are the challenges that are coming up, etc.?
Well, I think as we've discussed previously, Adam, there's a lot of use of AI and I'm a great believer in it in terms of enabling a much more efficient process to actually drive processes that can be automated to provide greater room for our talent partners to use the skills that are important, which are judgment, building influence, and building relationships. So AI is an enabler, but it's not the silver bullet to do everything. And I think, as we know, there's been a lot of class actions over in the US about how AI is used in talent acquisition. And I think there's been a bit of a ripple effect. And if we look at the way a lot of individuals are viewing the TA kind of environment at the moment, it is that the position in the UK means that AI cannot reject candidates. And that's just not correct. What we need to do is ensure that, yes, AI is being utilized in the process to automate repetitive process, but there is still human judgment that is involved in that. And we also had an episode on trust that's breaking down. And that is as a direct result of candidates feeling I'm just being assessed by AI and then going into a black hole. A lot of this policy is around, okay, how do we guard against that? And how do we provide guidelines to organizations as well as vendors to provide opportunities for candidates to question and be able to prove why organizations are taking decisions. So I mean, if we think about it, the law allows for a much broader use of automated decision making, and let's call it policy. But the important issue isn't simply whether AI can make a decision, but it's how that decision is governed, and also is the meaningful human judgment sitting within it.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I'm interested to understand if we think that the human oversight should be after the AI has made recommendations, or it should be into the AI to ensure that it is loaded with the context of what your organization wants to be able to achieve in a fair and non-biased process.
So let's look at an example. It's probably the best way of doing this. So if we imagine 2,000 people apply for a role, and if we look at different stages, so if we say AI supports, so AI analyzes and ranks the applications, the recruiter genuinely reviews the evidence and decides who progresses. That's AI processing, human judgment remains. So that's all well and good. But our question is, okay, so we've got 2,000 applicants, yes, we've been given some insight by AI, but do we then need to look at 2,000 applicants? That's administratively wise and efficiency wise, not good. So then if we reverse that and think about, okay, if AI decides, so AI applies a threshold and they go, okay, for example, anybody with 70 plus points progresses, below 70 is automatically rejected. That's not automatically unlawful, but it may now be kind of significant that the sole decision-making process, which then brings far greater responsibility to the organization, because in that action, where's the human judgment?
Yeah, it's a very good point. So where is the human judgment? Your judgment and my judgment are likely to vary. How can we apply any type of industry standards?
So I mean, yes, I mean that's the age-old question, isn't it? Bias, individual bias. Where AI can help with that is you hopefully get consistency. But again, that consistency is driven by rules that have been created within the AI structure and program. So bias can be there at all times, but it's about, okay, how do we minimize it? How do we ensure that we are implicating the same structure and rules based on how AI is working on a consistent basis? It's all about being able to be transparent and being able to provide information to justify why that decision was made. But again, this comes back to, again, meaningful human involvement. That's the main piece. Where I think the ICO policy is trying to move away from is being able to, as an organization, justify how decisions are made and having that human involvement. Because if you think about how AI then might look at those 2,000 CVs we were talking about, they rank them and then they go, okay, these 70 are good. So it then doesn't automatically reject, but says, Mr. TA partner, Mrs. TA partner, whichever, you need to look at these. But the reality is, because we're trying to be efficient, then does that TA partner just click on all the ones below 70, reject, 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 reject? Because that isn't human involvement. That's following what AI has told you. So that actually is more borderline than having a consistent approach from AI going, these are the people who are suitable, these are the people who aren't. So it's a very, at the moment, I think it's quite a grey area. But the most important factor that we need to look at is the candidate safeguards. And these are where, if decisions are made solely through automation, the candidate needs to have appropriate safeguards. So we talked about transparency, so that they should be able to understand how automated decision making is being used. So if you have a job advert that's going out, as an organization, we should be transparent about the processes that we use to make from an assessment perspective. They need to be aware of it. They need to be able to challenge as well the outcome. So they need to have a route to be able to make contact and then go, okay, I don't understand how have I been assessed for this? Is it through AI? I don't understand how that decision has been made, because obviously I'm very perfectly aligned to this role. And then if you think about human intervention, they need to have that ability to go, okay, I want it to be actually reviewed by a human, thank you. And I mentioned to you, I think previously, I applied for a role where there was a toggle on the advert that said, do you want to be reviewed by AI or by a human? If you go the AI route, it's probably going to be quicker. If you go the human route, it's probably going to be slower. And you've got that kind of trade-off to decide on. You go, okay, if I go AI, do I feel that's a lack of trust I've got in it? But the process will probably pick up faster. And if lots of people go AI, if I go human, does that mean I'm too slow and do I miss out? So there's a kind of trade-off you've got to decide which is appropriate.
What a crazy dilemma that is. I've never ever thought about that as like, yeah, you don't know. It's like you've been tricked.
Yeah. Well, it's the
It's
same.
like, do you remember those books, the like Forest of Doom and things like that, where you choose your own
Mhm.
adventure based on rolling the dice? It's like, I don't know whether to go around the cliff or
Exactly.
down the waterfall. So
But it's like
what does
LinkedIn, isn't it? If you think about when a job advert goes on LinkedIn at the moment, if you look at it 6 hours later, 100 people have applied already. And you're then going, as I think you put a post out, okay, are they then going to get to that 100 applicants? Are they then just going to switch the job off? Should we still be bothering to apply? So there's so many different trade-offs.
well, let's come back to that because I want to dwell on that particular point in a minute.
Mm.
But I want to just ask, like, what does transparency look like? So if I was to like, if I'm going through a process, is it like just a sort of terms and conditions link, which is if you want to see how we assess people, click here, and then that reveals a big long document which explains, how the I don't know, the balance weightings work or what?
Um, yes, I think that needs to be there, but I think we also need to be far more obvious about our transparency. So I think it would be more of a case of within the job advert actually having kind of real statements about how that is assessed, and then something like, and if you'd want more detail on this, please click here to go to our complex understanding. But um, I think it's twofold. It's number one, policy, but number two, it's also, as we've said before, rebuilding the trust that is required between candidates and employers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, let's come on to that other
Mm,
topic. So, I mean, it's a related topic. So as I understand, applicant tracking systems sometimes offer a feature which is switch the job off and auto reject people once you have hit 50 applicants or
mhm.
100 applicants or whatever it might be. The problem for me with this feature is that it doesn't sync with job adverts and the job advert coming down.
Mhm.
So I could see a job advert and I can go and spend a couple of hours doing my absolute best application for this and like really, glowing up my CV and spending time really working on my answer to the questions and the knockouts and whatever. And if I'm applicant 51 out of 50, out of and the if I'm applicant 51 and the system is set to 50, to me, I think this is probably explaining why more people are getting like 10 seconds after they've clicked apply, they're getting an email saying, sorry, you're not going to be taken forward for this. Rather than
Yes.
AI, I think this is what's happening.
Yes, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, there's two aspects of that. So if I go back a good few years when we had automated ATS responses, that can also be if in the application process through the ATS there are specific questions that are there, that if the candidate hasn't answered with the appropriate response, then it automatically rejects, as in, do you have specific experience with Workday, something like that, and the candidate doesn't. Um, what I would always encourage teams to do, and what I encourage my teams to do, is put a delayed trigger on that, because we want to at least give the semblance of understanding to the candidate that we've taken time to look at it. We know it's not going to be right, but let's do a 24-hour delay trigger on that, please. Whether all companies do that or not, I don't know. It makes sense from my perspective. With the AI piece, yes, I totally agree. That is driving the distrust. But I think going back to switching that off, my issue as a business owner, what happens if the 51st person was the best person for the job? And that's my fundamental issue with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's two problems. That's one of them. From the company's perspective, they are absolutely potentially missing out on. I mean, the first 50 people to apply are probably people who are like actively on it non-stop.
Yeah.
That might not be like somebody's out doing charity work, during the day while they're job seeking, and then they go and apply at 7 p.m. and then they find that there's been 50 applicants already, and they miss out because they've been out doing something that's good. That's just that is wrong. It's wrong to miss out on the best candidates.
It goes back to, if I can do a shameless plug, my commercial hiring series that I've been doing on LinkedIn, which is a kind of blueprint playbook for how to create an aligned talent acquisition capability in the new AI age. But one of the issues I talk about with fundamentally relying on AI is that it can't manage trade-offs. It can't go, okay, is this person absolutely suitable? Well, we've got a trade-off here. We want this skill, but they've got this other skill which might actually be more appropriate. The trade-off isn't there. And I think in this case, again, it's a trade-off approach, because you're looking at operational efficiency versus ensuring that we get every opportunity to secure the best candidate. Because again, it goes back to, if you leave it open, you've got 3,000 applicants, how efficient in terms of a talent acquisition function can there be if they're having to review 3,000 applicants?
Can't do it.
So yeah, I mean, you can't do it. So it's again, it's that trade-off. And when you look at it from that perspective, you're then considering that the return on investment that you're getting from your TA partners is being absolutely minimized, because they're spending so much of their time doing a process that is 100% required, but it doesn't deliver the positive outcome. There's only probably 5 people, 10 people that they're probably going to consider interviewing out of that 3,000. So 2,990 of them are wasted time.
Yeah, 100%. This is correct. And this to me is the really augments the distrust, between the public and talent acquisition today. And I firmly believe that we have to use AI to assess candidates, because no human has got the time to review 3,000 CVs or applications. It's not possible. And so we have to use AI. I really believe we have to switch off this quota thing. We could put deadlines on something, absolutely.
Yes.
5 days, and then it's 5 days, and then it's switched off. But if it's switched off in the ATS, it has to be switched off. The job advert has to come down, because otherwise it's a real moral problem. It's really unethical to be giving people any type of false hope, but more so wasting their time. I think it's really awful.
But I think it's also, I mean, going back to what kind of the fundamental question that we're trying to talk about kind of what is policy, what's allowed, etc., etc. I think historically, organizations have gone, well, it's got nothing to do with me. It's the ATS. They've got the AI inside it. It's the vendor's system. It's the vendor's responsibility, not mine. And kind of the ATS handles that. But the reality is that needs to change. Well, it has to change. One of the big ICO approaches is, no, organizations, you are responsible for this. So it's, I think for a TA leader, it's really understanding, okay, what scored, what data influence decisions. Is the bias, we talked about bias, is bias being tested? But the main piece is, can the decision be explained? Can we be transparent and be able to justify our decision? If we don't have the viewpoint into that process and the access to it, and we are approached by a candidate saying, I want to understand, and we've got to give them that pathway, that if you can't defend your decision-making process, that is where the fundamental issue lies, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you. The employer needs to take responsibility for that, because otherwise it's like shooting someone in the street and then like trying to put the blame on the gun manufacturer.
Yeah,
it's just not. James, great to see you. Thank you very much for your time and your insights on this topic. And I look forward to catching up soon.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, Adam. Good to catch up again. Cheers.